Anyway, so I don't know why I'm going on about that, but like the protests have nothing to lose. Again, your confidentiality is taken away, your privacy is taken away. Your voice is taken away. You can't speak. You can't stand up for yourself, right? And I mean, and whatever it is, and you can see some people in the protest. Like there was a woman just crying, holding a poster, just crying. She's got like nothing left. Absolutely nothing left. And like, what else does she have to do? She's just standing there, and then the police come up to her, like 5 guys, and like surround her. And it's just, I mean, she was probably in her 50s or something like that. And they just said, do you know that we're going to arrest you? And she says, well, I don't care, And I can appreciate that, but like I'm saying, for myself, would I get involved in these protests? Would I get violent with the police? I mean, for me personally, no, not here in South Africa. You can get killed. You can get killed, or you can get seriously injured and have a real problem on your hands. Like here, it's just, I'm sure in all countries around the world, but so I don't know if I would do that, but like, I can understand the rage. I can understand it, but then again, like at the same time, it's each to their own. I don't know it's each to their own. We do what we do, but like, I don't know. I mean, we're not playing into the hands of the establishment, like, by going. I mean, you see, it's a catch-22 or catch-21, type of situation. Like, what do you actually do about it? Because you just don't want to stand back and be idle, but then at the same time, there's a lot of your own personal transformation and becoming, removed from the system, if you will, not trying to fight against it and not supporting, and that's it, not supporting it either, so sort of just, and the problem is that we depend on the system, right? We depend on the system, so it's like, the very thing that humanity and, survives on is the actual establishment, is the system itself. And so, for our food, for our security, for our comforts, for our entertainment, for whatever it is, like, we are reliant on it. And therefore, we cannot change it. I mean, in a sense, we need to not remove the head of it. We need to start our own thing completely. And whatever it is. But we can't do that. So it's like, okay, so what, you want the president to change? You want the president to understand what's going on? Like, I see what's going on in Israel with Netanyahu, and how many, the protests, they're also get so violent. And it's like, well, what do you expect? Like another prime minister to come in and, not be connected to the whole, you see, because people don't know that there isn't Israel, there isn't America, there isn't Australia. It's all one company. The world is a company, right? There isn't individual countries to a large degree, and whatever it is, most countries have to go along with it, and so every country is interlinked and dependent on the world and whatever it is, and so people don't realize that we've got to start a whole new world, and not just you're sharing your grievances for the government. The government just doesn't care. They want you to do that in a way, because it's not going to be effective and efficient. And so, I mean, I don't have any solutions here, but I think the solution is a spiritual one, like I've said before. It's like, well, do your work, do your healing, do your connectedness, your whatever it is, get right, do your dismantling from culture, from the toxins inside of you, physically, spiritually, consciously, psychologically, whatever it is, do the purging, if you will, get back to your authentic self, to your soul, to your spirit, to your intuition, or whatever it is. Don't get distracted by trying to change the system in a way, or bring the system down, so to speak. Again, I think the only way we bring the system down is by stepping away from it and doing our own spiritual work. Now, we know this, folks, but I mean, it's a time now where I think the establishment wants us to be, wants us to engage, it wants us to fight, it wants us to take it to task, because again, I think there is this metamorphosis process, this transmutation going on, and if they can get us to direct our energies towards them in frustration and anger, and and with our grievances and whatever it is, then they're distracting us from actually the inner work, if you will, right? The real inner work. And so, I mean, it's very complicated, all of this, and it's not, again, it's each to their own, because everybody's got their own destiny, their own karma, their own mission, and whatever it is. So I can't say it's right or wrong, or whatever it is. But I remember when they started with this, and I did a video on it years ago, when they started on the Occupy Wall Street, which I thought was the most pathetic thing. And I saw a lot of people, like conscious individuals, going along with it and supporting. And it's like, you want to camp in the worst, highly dense, energetically depraved place in one of the big in the world, in Wall Street, and demand that you're not moving until they change something or other. It's like, this is what you're putting your time and effort into. And it was such a joke. And where is it today? What did it do? It did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And again, the establishment is so many steps ahead. They know, oh, people are going to protest? Okay, fine. Well, we'll just come up with something like, oh, well, the virus was spread by the protesters. Okay, now we ban protesting. And, it's just lockstep. So it's like, okay, action, reaction, solution to, people's grievances and whatever it is, and to shut people up and to, whatever it is. And the thing is that it's not a lot of people, folks. It's not a lot of people that protest. I mean, it's like, I think in Trafalgar Square it's like 10,000. Look, in Germany it was massive. I think it was over 1 million people or something like that. Look, it's not televised, so we don't necessarily know, and the numbers we don't know. But the thing is that 50% of people should be outraged. 50% of people should say enough's enough. 50% of people should do that, right? And then you got something to go on. I reckon it's maybe, that really take to the streets. And I'm not talking about in a physical, whatever it is, but I'm saying I think it's maybe about a small percentage, maybe 1%. In this country, I think it's like 0%. There's been absolutely no back push from the people. There's been absolutely nothing. I mean, there has been, but it's been ridiculous. Do me a favor, there hasn't been whatsoever. But like, 50% of people, 40%, 30%, 20% of people, taking to the streets or like just downing tools or something like that will bring on the revolution in that way. But you haven't got that number. You haven't got that number, and that's why establishment is so far advanced in what they are doing, right? And how far they've come. And so, the reason being, I don't know if I wanted to get into this now, but these are the notes that I took down from the video that didn't work out for me on Monday. I took some notes down in the evening, or some points down in a way, and it's all over the show. Basically, I was kind of talking, and I don't know if I should make this into another video, but maybe I'll just touch on this briefly, just one of the topics here, which is about being thrown down the rabbit hole and novelty, and how that's used to get people caught further in the spider's web, if you will, right? What I'm saying is that, like, technology is used as a Trojan horse, okay, by establishment, if you ask me. The pace of technology is not natural, is not organic, right? Is not of its own volition, of humanity's sort of design of it. There's just no ways. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me in Africa, in third world countries, that Africa itself also designed or developed the technology themselves, the psychology behind it, whatever it is. I'm saying, to get to that point of evolution, of designing such advanced technology, there's just no ways. There's just no ways Mr. Zuckerberg invented Facebook. I'm sorry, there's just no ways. This little putz from, university, Harvard, wherever it might be, who has got no people skills. I mean, whatever it is, he doesn't even look human. He's bizarre. I mean, you can find weird videos of fingers moving, anyway, besides that. But besides that, you can sense it. And so, so it looks so benign. It looks so like when people look, oh, Mr. Zuckerberg, I wish I was him. What a genius, what a brilliant man. Will be on Time magazine, remembered for the whole of eternity, whatever it is, whatever it is. But it's so innocent. Like, here's this young guy, Jewish guy, whatever it is, nerdy type of guy, whatever it is. And even Mr. Gates himself, this nerdy type of small, very not aggressive, very caring, hunched over, always wearing sweaters, Mr. Gates, whatever it is, and like the way he talks and etc. And it's like, it's none of it is real. None of it is real. None of the cell phone companies, whatever it is, none of it is real, right? It's and it's been pushed on humanity at such a rapid rate, for so many reasons, from so many levels, And again, to massively disconnect us from one another, from our connection, from truth, from reality, and so on and so forth, right? And so you do this, like, you know, where I used to visit villages, and they would say, we've had a village running for as long as, 200 years. I'm saying as far as we can remember from our great-grandparents. The man would say of the village. He says it took 2 years after we had television. He says where people started stealing from each other. He said it was people were raping, sleeping with each other, whatever it is, like there was no, it was just all hell break loose. 2 years after we got TV. He says after 200 years, he says we can't see the connection here, whatever it is. He said the children stopped, tending to the fields, stopped, doing, looking after the cows, the cattle, doing their jobs or whatever it is, even though they were still going to school, and whatever it is. He says, and they went into the shopping malls, and whatever it is, they would travel there, they would buy Coca-Cola, they would buy, people lost all the ways of gardening, of being self-sustaining, of knowing how to work the land, of knowing how to, the ceremonies, the rituals, or whatever it is, and it all became about, like, I've been in the villages, wearing fashionable items and clothing. Like a guy wanted to buy my shoes from me. I was wearing Nike shoes, which I got from my father. And my father gives me all of his hand-me-downs, which I don't mind. And the guy wanted to pay like top dollar for them. I said, are you crazy? I said, it's going to last you like 2 weeks here or 2 months here on the gravelled roads and whatever. He's like, no, but it's Nike, type of thing. And so we've been infiltrated and taken over, okay, by technology and whatever it is. And so we know that. But what I'm saying is that, like, with, when somebody's on a psychedelic, right, they're just so overwhelmed. Right, and you don't know what's necessarily going on. That's why also you often need a shaman, let's just say with ayahuasca, to guide you, right? So you're not walking the land alone in the unknown, in the mystery, in that way. That's why you need a sitter sometimes with psilocybin mushrooms. You need somebody there to comfort you, to assure you that you're okay, to make sure that you're not going to, run out of the house or run out of the hut or whatever it is that you're in and just start barking. I mean, sometimes it's necessary, but like, you need it because you go into this realm of the psychedelic, of, Alice in Wonderland, of falling down the rabbit hole. It's bizarre. It's unusual. You can't place yourself. You don't know what's going on. It's unfamiliar. The feeling, whatever it is, you can't associate. You feel disassociated from yourself, from your own reality. And it just feels overwhelming, confusing. It's like, whatever it is. And so when you're in that state, you're so vulnerable and you're so afraid a lot of the time. And in that position, you can be leaded, you can be guided, you can be, like in a healthy way, you can be directed, right? Or you could be, manipulated even further and taken advantage of. And so technology is a psychedelic. Establishment knows this, and so they throw technology at us. And I'm talking about all types of media, all types of technology, right, that they've thrown at us at a massive, massive rate over the last few decades, but only in the last decade, especially in the last decade, right? And so people have come into a world now which is absolutely psychedelic, right? What I mean by psychedelic is that it's completely bizarre. It's completely uncharted territory. It's the unknown. It's like, whatever it is. I mean, children are able to talk to their friends around the world, are able to watch hundreds of hours. You know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm talking about. And so many other things with technology, so many other things. And mostly it's so perverse, it's brought out so much of our greed, envy, insecurities. I did a talk about that documentary that I watched, which was just so awful. Again, I'll hopefully upload that video before this one. But like, and so psychedelic with the whole CV narrative. You wake up in a world which is so bizarre, which is, like I said, there's never really been a normal, but like you wake up in a world now where it's like, what the F is this, Like everybody's wearing masks. It's just so bizarre. People aren't really sick, but they're wearing masks. They're all keeping a distance from each other and told, you stand here, you stand here, you stand there, whatever it is. You're told to wash your hands all the time. It's like fear all the time. It's the unknown. It's like, is this thing alive? Is this thing dead? This virus, like, and it's just so overwhelming. I mean, to see children not being able to play with one another, sitting at break time on the sports field, and they each got their towel or yoga mat that they sit on and they eat their lunch and whatever it is. It's like, what kind of world is this, type of thing. It's just everything's being sanitized, everything, the whole time. It's just a very, very bizarre world. And for a lot of people, it's like, well, geez, what is this world? Like, is it genuine? Because I think, a lot of people think that it's overplayed and whatever it is. It can be very political. It's not what it appears to be. But again, it's just too far, and it's just too extreme to think that it's not authentic. It's just a hoax, Like, it's too far for them to understand the manipulation, like I said, and what's going on and the evils behind it. Like, people just don't understand it. They can't understand it, and so you're in a bizarro world. You're in Alice in Wonderland, and when you are in Alice in Wonderland, for most people, you are able to be manipulated and controlled, right? You're able to be manipulated and controlled and herded like sheep, in a sense, because you're in the unknown. You're confused, you're uncertain, right? You're nervous, you're anxious, and this is the very system that you've been relying on the whole time, that you've been dependent on for so long, to give you your direction, to give you your meaning, to give you your sustenance, everything. And now it's kind of turned against you. It's always been against you, never realized that. But it's still pulling you along with it, right? Because you just have no other choice. Because you just don't have your own inner direction, your own purpose, your own meaning, your own sovereignty, your own ability to think for yourself. You've been told what to think your whole life. You've been told how to act. You've been told what to do, whatever it is, your whole life. And all of a sudden, you're going to start being able to think for yourself. No. So I just think that this is a further stage in the establishment's trick to create such, to unleash novelty at such a rapid rate in their favor. Because again, if we do think about novelty, and we do think about the last 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 years where very little did happen at a time, as opposed to, let's say, yesterday being Thursday, how much happened just in that one day, can amount to 100,000 years of history or something like that. I mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. So there is a genuine novelty, an authentic novelty that's part of the evolution or the transmutation, transcendence of the soul, from the alchemy, from the human into more of a spiritual being, in a way, from matter into spirit. And this is the time that we're in. But establishment on their side, right, is using novelty to again overwhelm the natural process that's going on, and again to pull majority of people into it, like majority, a good 90%, if not more, or something like that, of people into it. And so it's playing its hand very heavily now, and that's what it needs to do because of the time that we are in, right? It can't play any less, and it will continue to up the scales, up the stakes even higher and higher and higher, because again, we live in a time where it's, as McKenna said, it's a photo finish, between the evolution of the soul and the de-evolution of man, in a way, or something like that, And so there is this this filtering process that I think that what it's about, that is going on, on a big level here, right? And most people are being, pushed further into ego, pushed further into fear, pushed further into like the belief in materialism and science and whatever it is. And they're not being, they're not connecting. They're being pushed, further into matter and materialism, and this has been going on for a long time. So it's like, you see, that's just the way I see it. It's like, the more what establishment is about is getting you in love and in touch and engrossed in the material, right, realm, right, in the physical realm, and the identity in the ego realm, right, which is all, it's all vanity, it's all vain, right, it's all purposelessness, in a way, to a certain degree, right? I mean, when we don't use materialism, the physical realm, or whatever it is, for, the greater good, for our own livelihood, for our own health, well-being, for others, and whatever it is, we take care of the planet. We're not doing that, right? we're creating more and more karma, right? And therefore being more and more anchored down into the material and into the physical, right? And into the ego. And again, it kind of comes into a part of where it's the inauthentic self. It's the lie, it's the Maya, type of thing. Like, I don't know. I mean, you just look at how much waste of time goes on this planet. Just think about just that. How much time is wasted on this planet? And for the last decade or 2 decades or 3 decades. Think about how much time is wasted with people watching TV, on Facebook, on Instagram. Like, what the hell is that about, right? Just think about how much hours, people spend at work in a job that they can't stand, right? Wasting time. I mean, it is essentially a waste of soul and spirit. I'm not saying don't go to your work, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just being to be reasonable, and so they don't have that. And so I'm just saying, so like how much time is just being wasted? How much soul energy is being wasted? How much of it is just being distracted, right? And the more that it's wasted, the less the person or the soul, the individual is growing. So the more they become stunted, right? The more they become incompetent, and therefore the more they are able to be controlled. And that's exactly what establishment is about, It's about distraction. It's about wasting your time and getting you lost, That's exactly what it's about in the Maya, And so the thing is that, like, there's the other side of the purification where, one is dismantling themselves from ego, from the Maya, right, from the conditioning. And you start seeing things for an absolute new, and behold, I make all things new. I wanted to, I don't know, I seem to be going through some of these points over here. Like, if you look at like movies that have dated badly, right, or even songs that have dated badly or poorly, I mean, even like something like the Macarena was never really, I mean, but people loved it, and Louis Vega, Mambo Number 5. I was just thinking about this trash the other day. It's got nothing to do with it. But like when movies have dated badly and they just look stupid, right? Or songs, and it's like you can't even watch this shit. It's like it's so over the top. It's so unrealistic. Do you know what I mean by movies that have dated badly? It's like impossible to watch. Just whatever it is. But at the time, it was the movie. It was the number one movie, I don't know. Maybe not this movie, but like My Weekend at Bernie's or something like that, right? Maybe not the best option, but it's not like songs that are timeless. I think the Beatles' songs are timeless. I think like some of Elton John's, even the Bee Gees or Michael Jackson's, Bob Marley's. The classics, the hard rocks and whatever it is. And, disco obviously often doesn't really so much. I mean, that I suppose is the big, but you know what I mean? Just outdates very quickly. Like, you just think about a Justin Bieber album. It's outdated over like, after 2-3 months of its production, and whatever it is. And it's just like, you listen to the shit, like, it's terrible. Not just Justin Bieber, but like, so again, it becomes so outdated, it becomes so, like, weak, becomes so like, the entertainment value is gone on it completely, and so it's just like, I don't know. And so that's what I feel like. Even if you look at fashion, and you look at old fashion from, I've cleared out some of my father's company where he's got fashion. It's a fashion store. And, the story, I mean, I've gone and I've cleared out clothes that are like 10 years old, and they look so ridiculous. It's like, well, what were people thinking wearing this? Like shoes, buffalo shoes, just weird shit. Even hairstyles or whatever it is. It's like we looked ridiculous. Honestly, we looked like clowns, and look like absolute clowns. And yet, the way that we dress today, in a few years' time, will also look like clowns. And the hairstyles will look like clowns, right? Because it's not really authentic. It's not really what matters. So much of the conversations that we have, so much of the time that we spend it's just a waste. It's just like, it's just vain. It's just in vain. It's just void. It's just so empty. Unless it's in true growth, unless it's in true spirit, unless it's in true progress and transformation, then it's just a waste of time, right? And it's very, very dangerous. So for myself, I can see more of the things that are just an absolute waste of time that but I can feel it even deeply, like conversations that I see people having, adverts, whatever it is. I can see the ridiculousness of it all. I can see the patheticness of it all. I can see the emptiness of it all. That's what I've written down over here. I can see the emptiness of it all. I can see the emptiness in people, right, that aren't soulful, whatever it is. And I can see it. I can feel the emptiness in food that hasn't been made with love, that hasn't been grown with love, or something like that. I've spoken about this before. You can see the emptiness. And remember, I spoke about what was it? The never-ending story about the nothing that is consuming Fantasia. Because people have given up on themselves, they've given up on truth, they've been given up on beauty, and the more that they do that, and meaning in their own lives, the nothing consumes, and the nothing just keeps on consuming. And so that's what's going on now, and most people are empty. And the only thing that seems like it's got some kind of substance is the collective, right? I mean, this was the whole thing of Hitler's idea. He said that in time, you're just a grain of sand that will just vanish. He says, but if you commit yourself to the German people, right, to the motherland, you will be remembered for eternity, because you will be absorbed into its structure, into its power, right, into its defying nature or whatever it is, and we can move mountains with it, belong to the crowd, the collective. And then, we will go somewhere together. But you on your own are infantile, are insignificant. You've got even no rights. That's the whole breakdown now that's going on. It's like, I think there's a massive move to join the collective, right? To be dependent on. They're taking away people's jobs. They're taking away people's everything that makes them a person, in order to they can become a robot, where they can become completely sort of just hopeless. They have no faith. They have no faith. They have no hope. They have no direction. They're empty. They're void, right? And the only thing that looks like it's got something substantial is culture, is the collective, right? It's always been that case, right? Science, that's really got it. God's left this. That's it. That's where the rubber meets the road in that way. It's culture. It's the collective. It's the womb. Now, one is going back to the womb. Okay. I mean, the word city is apparently from the word womb or something like that. So I mean, we just got to acknowledge that, well, from that point of view. So there's a collectivizing that's going on. That's something else, because again, you don't have anything in your own direction in your own life. You're like a lost puppy on the side of the road, and someone comes along and shows you the direction, or like you're a lost child at the circus or something like that, and you don't know what's going on, or in the forest or something like that, and whatever it is. And so, and also another thing is that we've got to appreciate, and take it absolutely seriously, how advanced, right, the opponent is here, how advanced the establishment is here, right, in their doings. They are so advanced, okay, that for majority of human beings on this planet, they are not able to fend culture off, right, or to not be absorbed into the collective, right? It's way too advanced for people. It's like, I think I wrote something down here. It's like hunting animals in a zoo, and you got a rifle with a scope on it, whatever it is, and etc., night vision, and the animals are there right in front of you, can't hide, can't run, maybe try and, hide behind a rock or a tree for just a minute or two before you just, pot them off or something like that. It's easy for culture to wrap itself around you know, the vulnerable in a way, the exposed, the weak. They're not really weak, because I think this has also got to do with something about new souls. You see, folks, I think this has got something to do with new souls on the planet. And I'll get into that as well. Well, let me try and just track this train of thought. So, can go anywhere with this. So the thing is that, like, you know, so for the establishment, it's so easy. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? It's so easy for them to do it because they're so highly advanced and they understand humanity, psychology, and consciousness way beyond the majority of people do, right? Now that's obvious. The tools that they're using here on a third world country are so easy. It's so easy to just to round the masses up. It is so easy. With technology, like I say, especially in this country, whatever it is so easy. It's like ridiculous. I'm sure for them it's like, you know, it's like it's a joke. You know, they're like, you know, I mean, there's really, like I said, there's no pushback or stand up or whatever it is, and maybe that's just the way that it is because. But folks, we got to see that. We got to see that establishment is so far advanced than we can even consider, right? Again, it's not Mr. Mark Zuckerberg sitting in, you know, whatever it is with a couple of his buddies thinking we're going to start a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate company that is going to, you know, change the world, you know, overnight in a way or something like that, that we're going to make it so addictive, right? Whatever it is, or something. Oh, there's no ways. This was planned a long time ago, you know. I think the establishment has had technology probably, I don't know who, I mean, because now you want to get extraterrestrial, you want to get off-planetary, whatever it is. I mean, you know, or underground, wherever you want to go, whatever it is. They were probably sitting with, let's just say, I'm saying just to point a picture, in the 1940s with iPhones. I mean, probably, maybe much more advanced than that, folks. Much more advanced than that. Do me a favor, much more advanced than that. The technology that we're using today is so primitive compared to what they have. And we must understand this. We must appreciate this. We must recognize this. I really feel. And again, I'm not putting all the power into the establishment's hands, you know, which I'll get into, you know, in that way. And so this bloody well better be recording, hey? Bloody well better be recording. Otherwise, I'm going to be absolutely heartbroken. Okay, so yeah, I'll make myself nervous now, relying on this technology. So it's easy. It's very, very easy. And then you might say, well, is that really fair? And now the thing is that I think that there's a thing with the new souls, right, on this planet, that it's not about them having to have independent thought. It's not about them not being absorbed into the collective or whatever it is. You know, it's not. It can't be reasonable about that, right? You can't be. It's just not possible. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just like you see how easy it is to control animals, like control cows or chickens or something like that. So what I'm saying is that the new souls, right, in a way, we're going to be adapted, absorbed into the collective, right? Absorbed into culture. That we're going to be. There's no question about it. That's just hands down how it would work. Okay? Just like animals were going to be taken advantage of human beings on this planet. It was bound to happen. It was going to. That's how it works. And in a way, now this gets a bit controversial, and I don't mean this in the sense of like cannon fodder, you know, that like just like animals, right? All the suffering of animals is not in vain. Of all the animals is not in vain. It's for the evolution of the soul of the human being, because I think the human being represents the whole of nature, right? The whole of history in that way. And the human being is to bring the torch and light of consciousness, of goodness, of beauty and love and meaning into the next dimension, into the next, you know, sort of rung on the ladder or something like that. And so all of nature is supporting it in that way by its own sacrifice of it, right? So it's not in vain. And I feel that animals have a sense about this to some degree, like cows that are sitting in one of these farmed, these caged, it has maybe a few meters to walk around its whole life. It's injected. It's just abused. Chickens, these battery farmed chicken hens and whatever it is, and the way we treat animals. The testings of like for cosmetics and all these things on all these animals and whatever it is, the way we're polluting the oceans, the fish that are dying, whatever it is, the mammal life, it's just the toxins that we're putting into the air or something like that. It's like, in the bigger picture, for a short time, humanity, human beings are given this opportunity to kind of wreck it all, in order so that consciousness can be delivered when the time is right, if you will, But I mean, even if you look at things in nature, like you look at a tree, right? Like this mango tree in front of me. It doesn't completely, but let's just say some of the fruit-bearing trees, they almost die off completely, right? After they've delivered the fruits, they almost die off, only to come back again, And so that's maybe the whole organism of the whole planet in a way, with nature, with all the animals, the birds, the insects, the mammalian life, whatever it might be, the trees, the air, the oceans. It all is some kind of organism, right, that is producing some kind of fruit. But when it goes from, after producing the fruit, which is consciousness, it goes into a winter, right? It goes into a time of sort of fallback, and the leaves fall off, the wood dries up, the branches break off, it's the harsh winds come, whatever it is, and it's bared naked. It looks like it's dead, right? Underneath it all, the roots, that's all alive, and that's all, with vitality. But on the surface of things, it looks like it's dead. And maybe that's what's going on here on this planet as well. And so like the new souls, in a way, are not necessarily, I would say, robotic. They're not necessarily NPCs altogether. I think they are part of that. But I think for myself, what I think is that they still have choices, right? Whereby they can be random acts of kindness. Small things, which mean the world. I don't know, they got a bit of bread. Then instead of throwing it in the dustbin, in the bin, they feed it to the birds outside, right? I don't know, they're going on their, walkway and whatever it is, they see a snail walking past, they make sure, or a worm, you don't stand on it, you let it go. You throw your garbage in the dustbin. Small things. You make your seat available for an old person who walks, an elderly who walks into the room. You stand up, you greet them, right? You give thanks for your food or something or other, right? You be a little bit of a trustworthy person. Yes, you can still be wearing massive wigs, here in this country, with eyelashes and your nails, and you can, give yourself a nickname like Jizzy G or something like that. I don't know, whatever it might be. You can listen to Rihanna, you can listen to, that horrific, I take you to the candy shop, I make you lick the lollipop, that song, Come On Girl, Don't You Stop Until You Hit That Spot. You know what I mean? This is the kind of world we're living in, folks. This is the kind of energy that we're involved in here, right? We're completely targeted from many different levels, but on the sexual level, we're completely targeted. We're completely aimed at, to be the sexual, sort of the base chakra, if you will, and to be controlled by our animalistic urges and desires and things like that. That's what they focus on us, to turn us back into the animal, not to evolve and become conscious and high spiritual beings, but to evolve back into the animal, right? Which is, again, the animal is not necessarily bad because it doesn't really have the choice, right? But human beings do. So there's a difference in that. I'm not trying to put animals down. Animals have their rightful place, right? But human beings have more of a responsibility. Human beings are the caretakers of this planet. You can't say that about cows. You cannot say that about monkeys. You cannot say that about any other animal in a way, so to speak, right? Who are stewards of this evolution of consciousness. And so for the human being has that possibility. So the new soul, if you want to call it, is not about not being about part of the collective, and they are cannon fodder in a way, just as much as nature, just as much as the leaves on a tree are almost cannon fodder for the fruit to be developed. But it's all part of the structure. It's all part of the organism. So it's all part of the one. It's just playing different variations of it. Okay? It's just playing different variations of it. So it's not inherently, dysfunctional or bad. It has its place in the whole mechanism, right? In the whole development of it. So we've got to appreciate that. We've got to appreciate that not every human being has fallen for this trick, and they should stand up for their rights, and they should be shamans or psychologists or astronomers or occultists or sensitive or empaths and not be narcissistic. Forget about it. There's no ways. A child born into this world in the last 20, 30 years or whatever it is, there's just no ways, right? Unless you were born in a remote village that has been, you understand what I mean, completely removed from culture and society, which has the elders, which is completely self-sustaining, which is in touch with the spirits and the ancestors and, whatever it might be, the land, the nature, everything. Like, forget about it. And so we need to really, really appreciate that, So again, the opponent is strong, but and ridiculously powerful and ridiculously advanced, but that's okay, That's just the way it is. And therefore, so for myself, sometimes I do have more of a compassion for people that are stuck within the web of the matrix, right? Which are returning more to their animalistic sides. I do feel sorry for them because I do think that there is a discomfort there. I do think that there is a disheartening there for themselves. I think there is a pain, there is a hurt. I don't think it's as deep as I imagine that I would feel it to be for myself. Now, I know that sounds horrible. I'm not putting myself any higher or lower than anybody else. I'm just more sensitive. I feel life more deeper. I feel it in more of a richer manner. So do you, right? It's just different people, different souls, different timelines, many things going on. But so I do think people are suffering, but I don't think that the suffering is as intense as it would be for a conscious individual. Right? And I've kind of spoken about this before, but that's just how I feel. And that doesn't mean that I can hurt somebody who doesn't maybe suffer as much as I do or feel as pain or as much as sensitive as I do. It's not about a justification at all whatsoever. So I have a compassion because, sometimes but at the same time they are lost and they are confused, but at the same time they know no better. They know not what they do, right? They know not what they do. Right? And in their own minds, they're so grandiose, they're so egotistical, they think they're such big deals, but little do they know how insignificant their character there is, their status is, their time here is, or whatever it is. Yes, they can do massive damage and harm, and they do. The narcissist absolutely does, right? But they in themselves and their identities is just like a puff of smoke, on a windy day that just eventually evaporates, disappears, and can no longer ever be found again. I'm saying their personality, their character, their time and effort of what they've done in a way. They have added to the collective. They have added to the evils of the world. They have done that. There has been that. There has been some benefit because of them. But from who they are, what they think they have, succeeded in, it's ephemeral. It's short-lived. It expires. And whatever it is. So evil has an expiration date. It's not long lasting. And that's what happens for the awakening soul, when the soul starts to awaken, is when they realize that you are insignificant in that way. Your character, not your character, your personality, your ego, your thoughts, a lot of the time is all very insignificant, right? It's because it's not aligned to truth, and therefore it's not infinite. It's like an old aging movie, an old aging song. It's very poor. It's got no substance. It can't last very long, right? It's got no real energy to it, whatever it is. And so you realize that your life in that way, in your thoughts, in your identity, has been in vain. Now, no one wants to admit that, not even to themselves, that your life has been a lie. But that's the only way you're going to get to the truth, is by admitting that your life has been a lie. And that's for the awakening soul. That's the hero's journey. That's the journey that we all need to take at some stage in our lives or another, right? To wake up to the lie. And the biggest lie is in ourselves, is the inauthenticity in ourselves. And that's why for the evolving conscious individual, it's so important to see things new all the time. Not because you are seeing things new all the time regardless, because your vibration is getting higher and higher, your consciousness is getting higher and higher. And so you're seeing things more from a holistic point of view. You're seeing not from a mechanical or different components and from a higher state of consciousness, you're joining more of the dots together. You can see the relationship, you can see the significance, you can see how, the balance of light and dark is at play here. You're not so immersed, some of the time you are, a lot of the time you are, most of the time you are, immersed in the drama of the world, right? On the very sort of surface-based reality of the energies at play, of the injustices, of the evils, of the Faucis, of the Gates, of the, you just about name whatever it is, the experts, just a few things, so you engage in it, you're enraged in it, you're involved in it, you're absorbed in it a lot of the time, right? Even in your family, ego, all the patheticness, all the wasting of time that's going on, all that's in vain, and you become sick by it. It makes you so sick, it makes you overwhelmed, it makes you anxious, it makes you depressed at times. It's like, what is this all for? What is this all for? And so that's when you get down into sort of and you miss that perspective of it all, and it gets you get so down low. But then you have these moments of high states of consciousness and the evolution of the soul, the uplifting of the soul. I mean, just think about how you see life now as opposed to you did maybe a few months ago, a few years ago. You're very much on the surface level of things, couldn't see the bigger picture. And again, you'll never see the bigger picture. We only maybe see, even at probably the highest states of consciousness, maybe you see like 5% of the bigger picture, because you're more coming from the place of love and, whatever it is, a very, very high point of view, you see it. But you still never see the whole thing. But you can understand the design of it. You can understand the process of it to a certain degree. But you can't understand much of it on the detailed level of things. It's just there's a lot that doesn't make sense. You're not going to get answers for. You're not going to have conclusions on whatsoever. It's a deep, profound mystery. But there are certain character traits of this experience, which is about growth, which is about love, which is about death, rebirth, connectedness, authenticity, and whatever it is that you can understand that there's a process that's happening, right? Like, just for example, you can understand that you're making a telephone call on your cell phone, but you don't necessarily know the intricacies of how it all works. And if you have to get into the intricacies, into the motherboards, into the RAM, into the signal connections, into the software, you'll get rather confused. You get rather very much like, this is very overwhelming for me. It's going to take me a lifetime to know, or a long time to understand this whole thing. So, that's when we get down into the detail and immersed in it all. I think that's what's going on now, is that hopefully that we're at a time for the conscious individual that is moving to a higher octave, and therefore is requiring a different kind of, like, we've outgrown this world, right? We've outgrown it in that sense. It's like there's much to still learn from it, but we understand more of the concepts and the basics of it, like what we're talking about now. We understand more of the metaphysics of it, right? And we don't really need the contrast so much. We don't really, we do, because we're also helping others at the same time, but let's just say maybe the job is done because the world has become so inhospitable, it's become so unfriendly, it's become now the autumn, if you will, of the spring, of nature, and therefore we're not required to be around for the autumn if we are the fruits of the labor of this organism, of this plant, of this happening of life, of evolution, if you will. So we're not supposed to so much hang around for the autumn, the winter time of it all, if you will. It's not our place. And therefore, because the fruits of our labor need to be harvested, appreciated, developed elsewhere or something like this. It's a dream that I've had before, back in 2009, which I've spoken about. Seeing the world as an organism, seeing it as a plant almost, as a flowering, blooming, something that produces fruits in a sense, rather than what we see it as generally and normally. Yeah, folks, a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding that of how much is in vain and for people, and like just that they're clueless and just they're hopeless. But again, not to let your boundaries down, because these people, Neo, They are still very much involved in the matrix, and they'll fight you and they will kill you, because that's how they've been trained. They'll manipulate you, they'll be deceitful to you, they'll betray you, they'll hurt you, because that's a lot of the time what's all they know. That's all the script that they've gotten from the TV and the media and the music videos and from their schooling and from their religions, to some degree the religions, somewhat or another. So that's all they know. So just be realistic. Be realistic. Be realistic of the size of the opponent at hand, right? That how sophisticated, the establishment is, how old the establishment is, and then also realize your part and your responsibility and your part in it, and you are responsible. If you've made it this far in the video, you certainly are responsible, and you're operating, I would say, on a very high level. And you say, well, you think you're on a high level? I say, yes, I think I am. Why can't I take that feather out of my hat? Why can't I acknowledge that? Why can't I, see that or for myself? Why not? How much have I traveled? How far have I come? How much effort have I put into this? How much sacrifice have I put into this? How much blood, sweat, and tears has gone into, myself? Not just in this lifetime, but in previous lifetimes. So why? What is wrong with me? How dare I say that? Why? I should be honored to be able to say that. I should feel so, encouraged and inspired to be able to say that, and so much appreciation and what's the word? Just like, I don't know what the word is. Acknowledgement. It's more than that. For myself. And I mean, we don't do that enough. As conscious individuals, we're like, well, I'm too sensitive. I don't know, I've got these manic moods or depressions, and I've got all this anxiety, and I can't socialize, and I can't keep a job down, and I don't like being around people, and I don't like being involved in cities or supermarkets, whatever it is. I don't, I can't have whatever it is, and we just give ourselves such a hard time, right? Realizing that we don't even really understand how powerful we are and how much soulful work we've done in this life and in previous ones as well. We've come a hell of a long way. And I think the problem is that the more we don't recognize it, the more we fall back into just feeling helpless, just feeling overwhelmed, just feeling useless, just allowing the voice of the critic, the voice of the collective to enter into our being and take us over. And that's very scary, folks, and that's not very loving, and that's not being very protective of oneself and honoring of oneself, if that may be the case, So again, you need to stand up and make your claim and understand what the world in the process that things are in, because again, they're going to be throwing us down many, many more rabbit holes, and we just want to be able to have our wits about us, have our common sense, have our rationality, and have our soul in the right place, our spirit and consciousness alive and well, and not be falling into the collective's plan, traps, not to be absorbed into the collective, but again, to be removing ourselves even further, dismantling ourselves from the old self, the lower self, if you will, and moving into, again, the higher self, the higher octaves, and whatever it is, and being in the right time, in the right place, for this transmutation, for this, this transcendence, for this evolution to be taken to where we need to go, to be uplifted, in the energies that are afoot, that are around the corner, in order that we can make the best transition, the easiest, smoothest, and worthwhile transition that we possibly can in this birthing process. All right, folks, I'm so nervous to hear if this is not recorded. I don't know what I'll do. Don't know what I'll do, but hopefully it has been, and if it has, you'll be hearing this from me. Take care, folks. Much love.